All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Six-Town Regional Planning Board meeting being held this Tuesday, June 23rd. We do have a quorum, and I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:36 via a roll call vote. Greg Snedeker, you're
Yes.
present. Alan Genovese is present. Bill
Yes.
and Dorinda.
Here.
Steve,
Present.
Jane,
Here.
Karen O'Neill. And Karen, you're on mute.
Here.
Thank you. Cliff Spatcher
Yep, I'm here.
and Michelle.
Yes. Here.
And also joining us is Lindsay and Mike Jackson. And I understand Deb Coty will be joining us very shortly. All right, just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and is in accordance with House Bill number 62 of the 194 General Courts. All votes will be by roll call. If there are any technical difficulties that occur and we can't resolve them, then we will postpone the meeting and resume it at another time. So first order of business is any other announcements, by the way?
Lindsay has her hand up.
Thank you. Lindsay?
I shouldn't. I don't see that I have it up.
I don't either.
Really?
Is it your cursor? Sometimes,
It's
Jane,
my
if you have your
cursor.
cursor, then
Sorry about that.
no problem.
Sorry, Lindsay. Got you in trouble there.
All right, moving forward. Approval of the minutes, the June 9th. I just will note, yes, they were very long. There was so much good dialogue and different points of view that people were raising that it just seemed that in order to capture some of the forward thinking and suggestions that people made, they needed to get all into more detail than I usually do. So I apologize for their length, but I think they captured the spirit of a lot of things that we had. It was a longer meeting than we usually have because we had canceled two previous to that. So the outcome of that, however, I thought it was a very productive meeting with great dialogue, good suggestions, and we got a lot done. So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. If we get a second, we could have conversation about what needs to be amended, if anything.
So moved.
Second.
That was Jane
Yes.
and Dorinda. Okay, for discussion. All right, are we ready for a vote? All right. Again, roll call vote. Greg?
Yes.
Alan is yes. Bill?
Yes.
Dorinda?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And Michelle? Is on mute. Cliff, you're on mute too.
Yes.
And Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so they were voted unanimously. Moving on, just as an update, we did send the clean copy to Desi, and we're waiting for feedback, and we did receive it. They apparently had no issues with it. They thanked us for keeping them in the loop and sharing those revisions. And so that was done. That was good news. So having heard that, now we can take that document and send it out to the select board, and we can put a cover letter to it. So I'll be working on that. I hesitated to doing that because if we sent it out and then Desi had suggestions and then we had to do it again, that would not have looked good. So that'll get out to the select board. The communication outreach, we have Dorinda has been working on that with Lindsay and Mary and is going to share her screen. If the host could share it with her. And she'll go over some of the suggested changes that they've been working on.
So one of the things that I was working on, so we had the one pager to be available, like about the project in general, to be available at, wherever Alan puts it, at libraries and such, town halls. And then, so I was working on other one pagers for the website, for people who don't want to read through studies. So one of them here is just like one page, what is a regional agreement and what does it contain and what's like, the highlights for people. So this one's just sort of like, what are the parameters? How many people from each town on the school committee? What are the schools? Are we, that we are honoring our tuition agreements? How long? I haven't changed this yet. That because Alan suggested it's 1.5 year or a July 1st start. So I'm gonna edit that. And then just the basics of our assessment methodology and debt. So I'll send this one out to everybody. But if you had like first like thoughts, like what doesn't it include this thing? I sort of looked at the whole agreement and tried to just like channel, what an average person would care about in a regional agreement. They really don't need like all the nuance. If they really want that, then they can read the whole agreement. So that's one of them. I'll send this out to everybody. I have
So,
4.
Dorinda, would
Yep.
this be on the homepage or where would this be?
This would probably, so there's like 6-town agreement, 5-town agreement on the homepage, and then maybe below it, summary of regional agreement, something like that.
Okay.
So this could be right below that, yeah.
People's
Right.
thoughts
But-
on this?
Go to the next one. Transportation. So we have the transportation study was just like basically a bunch of maps. So it isn't particularly helpful or not necessarily even modern to how many students are going to the building now, but people still care about transportation. So I was going to replace it with this, just like facts about how far apart the schools are, what might happen to ride times, and then how it's determined. I have to modify this, that the official school start times are negotiated with the union. I don't know if it's union or unions. Do you know that? Or what should I put there, Alan?
Well, I would make it plural. This is negotiated with the district's unions.
Yeah. Like it's unlikely at this point that we would need additional buses. 5 years ago, it was saying we need an additional bus, but that's no longer, doesn't make sense anymore. Because transportation is something that's really important to people, even though there's not tons on this. I think it's important to say, these schools are 17 minutes apart. Because people are talking about like, waking up at 5 and hours on the bus. And it's, that isn't realistic.
Yeah.
This one was mostly done by Lindsay and I just formatted it. It's showing the enrollment change, what's shaping enrollment, that we are going to retain the elementary schools and combine at the middle and high school level. And at this point, it just lists, it does not list grade 6 because grade 6 is not at Pioneer, although it, that's an option, but we sort of didn't want to get into it because we weren't sure how people would feel about that.
Yeah. So just on that point, in case that comes up as a question, what Desi was, when we were talking with them, they said, it's got to be as smooth as a transition as possible. That's the thing that, seemed to be very important to them. And that in doing that, it's really clear right now that we have something that's working for the Gilmontague School District where they have 6 through 8. I don't know if they've shaped their curriculum around that or share staff or how they're doing that. But it seemed to make sense to change as little as possible. So the model of 6 through 8 would be continued in the new middle school. The elementary schools would retain their present configuration. And then that's something later that a school committee working with the communities and parents and can decide if that's going to change. But so if that comes up as a question, and we can address that in the Q&A, there's somewhere to ask you to just let them know that's the reasoning behind it.
And then there's some examples of what combined enrollment could do, and the language is careful. It says things like would be better positioned to, or would help to support, and it doesn't make any promises.
Mhm.
And less dependent on school choice.
I can't read what that asterisk was about.
Oh, which one?
The one,
This one?
Yeah, the one after
That sixth grade remains at elementary school. I don't know if I should write initially or.
No, just leave it for now.
Yeah.
I'd leave it the way it is then, if that's what it says.
All right.
You could say are presently or would be,
Yeah.
but I think you have it good.
All right. And then this one really I needed Greg for. So we're gonna, we're doing what we can here, but we were thinking about like what can we put on this financial one pager, or these are sort of two pagers. We have this graph about flat state aid versus increased costs. That was from the PowerPoint that was presented to the towns. We were going to put a cost per pupil chart. Ignore this. I didn't delete that. We talked about financial efficiencies through combining central office savings, why state funding won't solve the population drop, and then school choice, how that's not going to solve the problem either. And yeah, I'll email all these out after so that people can add stuff. But yeah, Greg,
Yeah, it looks
probably need more
great.
data from you for this one.
Looks great, Dorinda. I mean, so
Thank
far
you.
it looks really good.
And then this, I just screenshotted it from our last meeting. So, would have you provide the text in this area about, however you want to best explain it, summarize flexibility. And then at the end, just explaining that this is the assessment methodology that we're going to use, and based on last year's numbers, how there would be little change to most of the towns. These numbers are not based on the current year. So if, for example, if Leiden has already had a bump, they might not see the same bump. I'm not sure how to if we have to put caveats there or something that like this is last year, this isn't reflective about what it would necessarily be next year. So if anyone has suggestions on that.
Well, I suppose you could say using the methodology described previously or above, this is how it resulted in, for 2025.
Yeah.
It obviously will change every year. Greg, was that the most recent, right? And in 2025, that's when we had because of salaries and all that stuff, is that we had another analysis done, right? And this is the most recent one. Does that look correct?
That was done in the fall. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the important thing is just to, let people know that assessment, projections are not cost projections. We don't know what the future costs will be. It's just how the budget gets divvied up between the towns in terms of, the local contribution. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
Are those are the dollars that were charged to the towns in Pioneer, right? You didn't recalculate any assessments.
Yeah, this is from, this was
This
the
is
2020, the fiscal 25, I guess.
Fiscal
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're-
25
to the towns.
assessment charge to Bernardston was $3,511 and
no, Jane, these are projections. They're not actuals.
it says
Well,
current.
yeah, the
Yeah,
current must
it's
be,
the current year as a baseline, but it's a projection,
So
right?
Jane,
For the projected whatever, if they combine, this would be, the total would be 24,779 for the total assessment, and then they would be projected that the assessments would play out in such a way. It's not the actuals in terms of how they exist within each district, though.
so Jane, I think the confusion is that um right now you're not being assessed with Gill and Montague sharing part of the pie. So
That's not my question at all.
okay.
So let's not deviate from my question, if we may. I was asking the question because Pioneer does not use foundation enrollment. They use actual enrollment. And I don't know what Gil Montague does currently.
Yeah, but
I know all the
Yeah.
projected numbers are based on anticipated foundation enrollment numbers, right?
right.
yeah.
But
So, oh, I'm sorry.
currently,
Yeah, the current
so we're not,
would have been the previous year. So it would have been the 2025 fiscal year. That's what they took.
Yeah.
And so they did a projected to the next year. It wasn't the 20, I don't think it was the 2026 year, but I could be wrong on that. Maybe he did. I have to go back and look. So that could have
Yeah, I'd
been the
have to.
baseline year. And then, yes, and then when you do the projected, yes, the assessment methodology changes for both of them because neither one, I think, uses 5-year rolling average. So that's just like from the previous year of
well,
whatever.
Pioneer uses a 5-year rolling average, but it's based on actual
Sure.
bodies in the buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's a different methodology.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's
So
all.
all the currents are based on actual enrollment. I think Gil Montague just does 1 year and Pioneer does 5.
Yes.
But
Right.
so the current is the actuals and the projected is if
Right.
it switched to foundation enrollment.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood you, Jane. It's okay.
All right. So that's those. So I'll send those out to everybody once I make a little bit of edit that one that said 2 years instead of 1.5 years.
General reaction to the overall presentation, does that, in terms of, on the website, does that sound good? It's a nice link between the flyer that's going out and the categories that they can look at on the website.
Mm,
I think it's great.
I do too.
Yeah, it looks great.
All right, thank you. Moving on to newspaper articles. So as you know, they've been sent out. I had a thought that I'm going to give Pat a call when her company leaves, because she was talking about, her mother was involved in, the regionalization, the kind of conversations that went on. So, and then I was thinking about Deb Pottee's comment about, talking it from the I place. And that would be a great article for her to write about, the trials and tribulations and concerns about what they were talking about then and how similar they are to what's going on today. So that would be a really good one for her. I'm hoping people will have a chance to, or had a chance to look at these, and it might even spark one that you want to write on your own. But I think because we probably only have one meeting in July, I think maybe just by me calling and talking to people individually about what one thing that they might be able to contribute, if we all do something that would help. Greg.
Yeah, one thing that came to mind looking at what Dorinda presented was having conversations. I'm just thinking like with my own daughter who was in, the high schools, was in Greenfield not that long ago. One thing that comes up on the social aspect, which I think parents, I think, get a little more concerned about than the actual students is that things have, the conversation I've had with her and her friends and people from around the area is that the social scene has changed really dramatically. That these high school students and middle school students, I'm focusing on that primarily because they use a lot of social media. They all know each other. It's not like it used to be where, you knew only sort of the kids in your own high school and you didn't really know the other kids. They all know each other. They all tend to socialize with each other. They all play on club teams together. And that's something that has come up over and over, as far as like a concern from older people that seem to don't have that connection of realizing that our students are really a lot more connected to students in all the other high schools and middle schools than we would even, sort of predict. So I think, the social sort of change, I think would not be as big of a deal considering that. At least that's what I've heard from, just from the younger people that are in these schools right now. So
You also shared that you heard it from an older person, and that was someone you said that was refereeing a lot of these games
oh
and
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of these high
yeah, yep,
schools.
yep, yep.
Well, I've said that multiple times. I mean, I'm in the
Yeah,
high
you have said
school.
that, yeah.
It's been
Yep.
co-oping for years now. I mean, maybe close to 10 years, some of these schools. So when I hear elementary school parents saying, "Oh, I don't want to send them over there," I'm just like, if they're not there yet, they will be. I mean, Greg knows my daughter. She knows everybody.
Yeah.
My girl, she knows everybody. Tech, Gil Montague. I mean, Turner's Falls kids. I mean, so it's the idea that somehow they're not already connected. It's one issue that's not going to be a problem. It's really it's the adults who, to me, are have some preconceived notions of what over there is like.
Yeah, you may be you may
It-
be thinking that, Deb. You were the one that's really championing that. And honestly, the other thing I would add is there's a lot less students of that age, which I think makes it easier for them to get to know each other. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, right.
yeah,
They have to branch out because if they don't branch out, they might not have any social connections,
right. Sorry, Michelle. I
friends. I
know.
mean, people get defensive. I mean, I've heard people say, my child has lots of friends," I'm just like, students just want more and more friends. They don't, they're the ones who have lots of friends want more, and the ones who don't have a ton probably would like to have a few more too. It's just like, if it's kind of a silly thing to say when I make that point, and people will say, "My child is fine socially." That might well be true, and everybody wants to have more connections. It's the number one thing that drives teenagers are social connections, and you want and also people. If you all remember that you move in and out of a relationship all the way through high school. Some work one year and then they don't work the following year. So yeah. It's not a bad thing to have more people in a class or in a school or in a grade.
Yeah. All right, so I'll reach out.
Michelle's
that?
had her hand.
Michelle?
Yeah.
Do you think we could get a student to write something on that social aspect? Or a group of students, not just one, a group. So we're hearing their voice.
Is that a question?
Just a question. I don't know who would want to answer it.
I can look into it just because I mean I have a daughter that's only been a couple of years out and she still is pretty well connected to students in the area. So I could ask her.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be, I mean, that would be something if a student council, like each has a president, they were to talk about it. That'd be interesting. So I'll reach out regarding to individuals regarding potential newspaper articles, so we can start getting those out. In terms of the Q&A, please get those in so we can add to start adding to the website. Bill had one today that I thought I've heard as well, which is people are wondering when is the vote going to take place. So I will write something up to address the fact that we don't know. Here's what we're waiting for, and we're expecting to do that in the fall. I think everyone's on board, right? We're going to have this vote in September or October, or maybe even November. I don't know. Somewhere in there, we've got to coordinate it with the towns. And so there are a lot of moving parts to that. We recognize it's expensive, so if we can piggyback it with something, that would be helpful. I did mention it to the tech school in a very soft conversation, and they were wondering whether or not that would make a lot of sense since they're asking for a money item and they don't know how people will react to that. Other people coming out for this non-money item, but certainly a creation of a new district might be contentious, and that people that are not supporting it might decide if they vote no for one, they might vote no for the other. So it was brought to my attention that that would not be good for the tech school if we thought that would happen. So there's still a lot of things that we have to sort out, which kind of brings me to the next. I'm going to skip over this for a second, Greg. The supplemental budget, we haven't heard anything on that yet, but we're waiting. That will be a huge plus if that gets passed because of the funds for regionalization. And the ballot question, we don't have any update on that. We're waiting for that to happen. Okay, so those are those two. Backing up to you, an update on the econometric model, Greg.
Oh, sure. Well, we put the RFQ out there, and we did hear back from Data for Decisions. So they came in under the exceed amount, which is great. And so I didn't hear from the other two, which is okay. At least I reached out. I did what I was supposed to for procurement. But so yeah, they are going to review the model and run it and look for counterfactuals and get back to us probably this week. And then run a more robust analysis of it by the end of the month. So I was very pleased with that. They seem to be wanting to do it for their own sort of altruistic reasons. I think they kind of formed their focus is population and demographics, and I think they find this sort of important and interesting. So I appreciate them sort of coming in under our budget. So it's just want to give a shout out to them.
Good. Thank you. Good work. So our balance will be maybe a couple $100 when we finish, and there may be some supplies or something that we can use that on. But it looks like everything's going to come in on budget, and that we are winding down the grant in very good shape. Next item, meeting with the commissioner. That's this Thursday. And so we get an hour, maybe a little longer. We'll see how that goes. I just want to throw out there any salient points that you think are really critical. You want to make sure that we bring to the commissioner's attention in our review of our proposal and our long range plan. All right. If you think of any, we'll be working on that tomorrow. So you can send out an email. We did get some feedback from Michelle Griffin today regarding that meeting. And, they're looking forward to the meeting with the commissioner. He's very interested in hearing about the long range plan and our proposal. They think that they don't want to spend too much time on the model, but they find it, they did review it, and they see the merits of it, and maybe at in another venue, we can talk more about it with them. So Greg responded back to them today that that'll be followed up when he gets a relook at it. Greg, any other comment on that?
Yeah, no, I think I think we can mention it at the end and just do a quick, 30,000-foot view of it. I think he'll get it right away. I don't think it's just more providing the sort of more context to kind of what goes on within a district when it gets that small. And I think it's valuable. I don't think it's really surprising to anyone once you start to see it. But no, I think they just want to primarily focus on the two regional agreements, have a conversation about that, and the long range plan. That's what we sent to the commissioner back in, oh gosh, what, 2 months ago. So that's probably what he's had time to review. So that's going to be the bulk of our conversation. We only have an hour, so yeah, we can.
So it's interesting. I'll just share that, as you know, when you're in a meeting, sometimes it's important what's not said or what the questions are. And so for me, I'm going to be really attentive to what their questions are. Is he sound like this is very intriguing and something that he thinks is very important. So, looking at from that aspect, I would like to come away with a sense of how he views this work and what we're trying to do. So that will be a takeaway that I certainly will share once we have that meeting. All right.
Yes. You know what my advice is? Answer the question that you're asked. Don't try to figure out why they're asking it. And emphasize the size. The ratio of students to teachers is important, and the fact that we're having less and less students and can't have less and less teachers, it's the big factor here.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And that points to the budgetary issue of hold harmless is doing nobody any good when the cost of education of smaller groups is increasing just as much as if you had a larger group. So hold harmless is really a penalty in the long run and the short run.
Mm.
My husband always says, how small is too small? It's always the question. How small? It's going to be too small. When they're 8 in a class.
Well, Greg's model will kind of point to how small is too small as we see what happens as a result of that.
It even
All
goes
right.
beyond that. Fine, some classes are great with 8 kids in the classroom. But when the student body is so small that you can't support enough teachers to have a diversity of subjects, that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I would say Pioneer's already at that. I mean, they have just what they have. One teacher, each subject, only able to teach what they can teach, and that happens at Greenfield. We're very limited. I mean, the guidance, I see them running around trying to figure out how to make the schedule work, and the schedule gets more and more limited by the lack of students and the ability to fill or support a class. So students don't get to choose where they go, and there's only one time for band. There's only one time for a French class. So you just have to choose. What are you going to take? You can't do band, or you can't do French because there's not enough students to support another same level of French or another band, or it's you're locked in, and so something you have to give away something, and we have more students than Pioneer or Turner's.
Hmm. Well, those are good points. Well, we have, the answers, it seems in our situation might be two-pronged. One, a change in the formula to support the smaller districts. And if we can get a message across to our legislators in the entire state that it's not just about throwing more money to solve the problem, that we have a plan to go with that, then maybe there'd be more interest in supporting what we're doing out here. So, okay. Our balance was $3,149.11. We have appropriated around, see what they come in 2,800 for the study. So it leaves a little bit. So we're in pretty good shape. Mary will be finishing up her work. She's done a lot of good things for us. She's going to write a couple of other author a couple of other articles for us to consider to go into the paper and out to the towns and newsletters and so forth. So she'll be finishing that up as part of what we had asked her to do. Summer activities. So the list is pretty long. We don't have to have meetings for these, but we do have to have people that are willing to step up, and if everyone can do one or two very small things, then that's going to help us move along. For example, I might call and say, hey, if I drop off the letters and the postcards, can you bring them to the places you think? And then someone does that. And going down the list, that would be if you're able to have a gathering and get questions so that we can put those on the website. So this was just a list of things that should be happening during the months and the next several months that we're not meeting. And I'll try to follow up with conversations with folks. I don't think we really have to have a meeting to talk about, each one of these items. Someone had mentioned there were signs, still signs going up in the towns, keep your hands off our kids or our schools or whatever. People can pay money to buy a couple signs. They're not very expensive and have them put up. The issue is in terms of the campaign and finance laws, you can't have, I couldn't have, hey, I'm going to buy some signs and I'm going to spend a couple $100. Anyone want to pitch in? Oh, I'll give you some. I'll give you some. We can't, that can't happen. It's a simple process. You go to the town clerk in your town, you say, I want to have a campaign and finance campaign for the 6 towns. You just sign the document, and then every so often you go in, you put the person's name and how much they contributed and what it went for. And that's it. So anybody can do that. I hope that people that are doing signs are staying in the boundaries that they're supposed to, because that could have consequences. So just food for thought if anyone has an interest in doing that with your town clerk. So looking at this list, clarifications of what any of these things are. One of them was a panel discussion. Do we want to ask somebody who's independent of this issue on regionalization and invite the public and town officials to a panel discussion and have some members of the planning board and invite some members of the school committee to engage in a conversation and answer questions? That was a thought that someone brought up at a meeting a couple meetings ago, and it sounded like a really good idea. Whether or not that invitation would be accepted, I don't know. But certainly we could have one where we have person that asks questions. The people get their questions in advance and they direct their questions to us if we're on a panel to address things. So that's something we should think about doing in like September. When people are coming back and they're looking for good information before they vote. Any others on topic number 9?
You letters and media outreach. We're
Oh,
talking about letters to the editor, and you and I talked about letters or articles to go into town newsletters. And
yeah,
I
you
don't
call
know
it
if you
news
rolled
releases.
that into A or if it should be separate.
No, I think you're right. I think that should be separate. And thanks for bringing that up. You and I talked earlier about, I think you called it news releases,
Yes,
town news releases, and that would be going into their newsletters. We need to,
because the July deadline has already passed. The deadline for August is earlier than usual in Bernardston, and I have to get that date. But the deadlines are usually around the 15th of the month. So in July, you're talking about August. In August, you're talking about September. Karen's.
Yeah,
Hi.
in Leiden, we're not having a newsletter in August. So July will be the last one of the summer, and then there'll be one in September.
Is it too late to get in July?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's going to print tomorrow. Well, they're going to edit it tomorrow, actually.
So maybe it's not too late.
well,
Yeah. It was the
It is.
20th. The 20th is the deadline of every month.
yeah, ours was the 20th, and I talked to them today, and they took it because they hadn't gotten to the editing process. So there is something that Mary had worked on that was shared today at a meeting with Dorinda and Lindsay. So there is something that she could actually send you.
From what I know in Leiden, I think putting it in September would be great because if there's
Okay.
not going to be a vote until October or November, it's fresh.
So August 20th is your deadline?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. All right. So since we already missed the deadline, July to August, so we're looking at everybody will try to get something to folks to talk to the people to get it in their newsletter or someone had mentioned that was it
Does
Northfield?
Gil Montague have newsletters?
No, the Montague Reporter is probably our closest to a newsletter paper.
Yeah, Gil does. We can. I'll have to find out what the deadline is again. But we can definitely get in the Gil newsletter.
Yeah, so Warwick does, Gill does, Berniston does. Someone was it you, Lindsay, that mentioned that Northfield has it on their website?
The last one was posted on the town website, yeah, because we don't have a newsletter.
Okay. Did they have a deadline for that?
No, they just put it up whenever they get it. They just add
Oh.
it to it's
Yeah.
just added to the website.
I
Okay.
did that in Leiden. I put your letter on the website.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
Montague could probably do that.
And I think it's
Okay.
on the website in Bernardston too.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think we all do it. We just don't tell anyone it's there.
it's there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for bringing it up again, Jane. So let's pay attention so we don't miss that next deadline, and we'll try to get something out. I dropped the ball on that because I should have had Mary and work on something a couple weeks ago, and so that everyone would meet their deadline. All right. Are there any items not anticipated?
I wanted to just bring up something, Alan.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are still running for Natalie Blaze's position,
Two,
We had
two,
two out of the 8 or something.
yeah,
Oh, okay. I have talked to Laura
Wondolowski.
Wondolowski.
I know of
Yes.
3 for sure, right?
Well, one just dropped out about a week ago.
I mean, you've got Corinne, you've got Linda, you've got Sabra still running, I think, right? That's no? Did she drop out? Okay. That's the one that
Some
gets it.
people didn't get
Laura-
enough signatures.
Yeah.
I mean, Laura just had something, was it last night or tonight in
Laura,
Deerfield
yeah, sorry.
at Element Brewing? Anyways, I
Okay.
think if anyone goes to any of those, whatever they're going to have for the public, I think we should try and get there. Like I said, I've already talked to Laura, and I'll talk to her again, I'm sure, over the summer. But I think we have to get to the legislators. And, I
I'm
think
not catching the name you're saying. Who are you saying?
Laura Wondolowski. Is that how
Laura?
you say it? Yep.
Yeah, that's it, Laura. Yeah.
Okay.
Pulaski.
And then there's Corinne
Coria.
Coriat.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I forgot the other name.
I think it's Lori, Lori. I could be wrong.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, it might be Lori. Lori.
Yeah.
She's a Greenfield parent. I know.
And she has been chair of this- the the town committee, right?
Oh, City Council. Yes.
Mhm,
Oh,
Yeah, second term of the Greenfield City Council.
right.
Yeah.
well, that's probably a really good idea you're suggesting, Michelle, that we reach out and talk to them because the little I've heard on some others that now have dropped out where they were hearing,
Well,
they were not getting, I think, a complete picture.
when she was in Leiden, she said what her campaign, what she was running on,
Mhm.
and she mentioned a lot about education, rural aid, changing the Chapter 70 foundation aid, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And everyone's saying the same thing. And that is not going to get us to where we need to be.
Right.
We all know that, so what? We're going to get maybe a couple thousand more in rural aid. It's not going to matter when you have such few kids. But
Mm.
I spoke up, and there was probably maybe 20 people there. And then I went up to her personally after, and I asked her if she knew about our planning committee, and she said she had heard about it. But then I had the conversation, as we talked about it, I had the conversation about having 9 superintendents in Franklin County and 9 businessmen and all of that. And she said, yes, she is understanding that. And she would like to have a focus group at some point to discuss this, because another thing she's running on is that she gets people together to collaborate and communicate. And so I think if she could get some people together to be talking about this, someone like her, would be very important to start the discussion.
Yeah, Michelle, I spoke with like Carolyn Ness on the Rural School Coalition. We had a long conversation, and she wants to get that group together with some of us because she agrees that some of the messaging that's going out is sort of kind of anti-regionalization, and it's not helping, and it's actually not realistic when you think about what's going on in our county. So So I got it was promising, at least on that end. So, and she mentioned getting is it Lori
Yeah.
as a part of that sort of meeting.
Um,
Okay. Good.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Let me figure. I was thinking archaically, and now I'm thinking more modernly. As I was listening to you, Michelle, I was thinking, gee, I was going to ask you, would you be willing to mail the postcard and the brochure to those two candidates that are running, and
Sure.
Greg, doing the mailing, the hard copy. I mean, we could email, and Dorinda could email the final one, so people had it and could do it that way. But I don't know. There's something about, when it's a nice stock and it's a nice presentation. I think that would be a nice thing to send to, our senator, our representatives, the people that are looking at, for these, offices or representing us. When we do our distribution, we should also be including them. So, Michelle, if you're willing to do that, that would be really good. And I'll go down and pick them up and bring them
Okay.
around to the different towns.
Yeah. I might even send one to Brian Saunders,
Mm.
who has been kind of stepping in for Natalie on several occasions on various things that I've attended. And he gets it.
Mm.
He gets it. We've talked about it. Paul Mark, too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's the one that said we're going to lose 40,000 students by 2030 in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
He said the numbers are just dwindling.
Yep.
And Aaron Saunders was with him that day. And he said, you better watch out what you're wishing for when you're pushing the change in Chapter 70 formula,
Right.
rural aid, and you just
Yeah.
need more money, more money, more money
Yeah.
without being willing to change.
Yeah, I mean the thing that it strikes me is because Bill brought up the hold harmless isn't working because
Yeah.
the formula was set up for stable and increasing enrollment. So when the entire state is basically in hold harmless now, like most of the districts, like almost 85 to almost 90%, um, it's not working for the state because the districts were treated as self-contained units. And that gets to the heart of the problem, which is why you have to create a bigger region, is that you have to move from a self-contained unit to a regional sort of view. And if we, approach it as self-contained units, I agree, Michelle. I think, if all these districts are in the same boat, you got to remember the bigger districts, to them, it feels very regressive because in a sense, it looks like they're getting all the money, but that's where all the kids are.
Right.
And so, we're going to have a hard time, you know, beating the drum to say, we want more money, we want more money. Meanwhile, we have so few kids, and then we're not willing to do anything to sort of, mitigate that.
Right.
And, they're all facing the same thing. And I think that's the issue is that it's going to be really, really tough because once you get down to baseline where some of these districts are that are so small, it becomes progressive because you're keeping them alive by funding all these ghost students from the past that aren't in your district. And so your per pupil expenditure is actually quite high. So you're actually getting quite a bit of, it's just that your cost, this is why when you look at that graph, the cost, your per pupil expenditure is going up twice the rate of your ability when the enrollment falls. So, it's driving up your cost expenditure on the per pupil side. And it's just not sustainable. I mean, that's the tough part about this because
So,
you can't ignore enrollment.
so I made a new note of something to do over the summer, and that is to look at the people that are the ranking legislators that are in different chairing different committees and mailing these out to those folks. So it gets on their radar screen. They might start asking questions. What is this about? So let's add that to the list, and I'll see what I can do to
What about the Chapter 70 team? Haven't they, have they announced who's going to be on that to look at the formula? I don't know if they have yet.
Well, if you find out when we're trying to get a
Yeah.
list of people to mail these to, because I
Yep.
have the ability to mail stuff out, so I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good. I'm glad you brought that up. So if we have one meeting in July, and so people can take a break, and then we can plan from there. How many people would we have that could attend a Tuesday on July 21st?
Yeah.
No,
I got a no from Karen. I can do that. Greg, can you do that? It's people looking at their schedules for, are they
Right.
around during vacation?
yeah, I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dorinda, you think you could?
I'm
Yeah.
very questionable whether it would be good for me.
Okay. Bill, is that school committee, or you take you to the summer months during the
The 21st, what?
that's a Tuesday. It's the
Third Tuesday.
third full Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, no, that's not I'll be just getting back from vacation.
Okay.
So it's okay by me.
All right. Why don't we try to run with that then? Just so we have a date down, and things will happen, between now and then. But and then we can talk about ramping things back up as we start to get closer to the finish line. The other thing is, I guess in between meetings, if we get more information, it's not on this list, but another activity, did I have it on here, is to get in touch with the town clerks and find out what they're thinking about when the election, special town meeting or ballot question could be, and what works for them and the select boards.
Michelle,
So-
do we have a town clerk yet?
No, but we've had 4 candidates. We've already
Mhm.
interviewed one and hopefully 3 more on Monday. So they won't know any better.
All right, well,
We'll just have to tell them what the date is.
and we can reach out to some of them. I had asked our town clerk, I said, what do you think about having a meeting with town clerks just on this issue to talk about, what makes
Mhm.
sense, and have them bring up issues that are challenging for them and see if they could come up with a resolution. And it was interesting because being a town clerk, he said, well, I don't really know if that will work because the town clerks all have different schedules and some are part-time, and trying to have them all coordinate on a Zoom meeting, may or may not work. He said, maybe you could do something via email, but I could see emails going all over the place. The problem with emails is when you're having conversations, someone thinks of something and that spurs someone else's thought. You have a conversation, I think you get a better result. So
Yep.
I'll send something out and get a feeler out to see if town, clerks would like to have a think tank discussion about how this might work for everybody. Dorinda, did you ever find out? I don't know if you were looking into it, but are there enough voting machines in the other 6 precincts to have a dual election?
They said they can have a dual election. I don't know if you use the same voting machine, it's programmed differently or what they do, but they said it's possible.
Okay. All right. So I'll put that on the next agenda because at that point we really should be talking about having information. We have to time it correctly because we'll take a vote to then send this to the towns, and then they have that window of 35 days or no more than 50, and we want to make sure that window falls when they would like to see this happen. So I guess more later. Anything else? It's been about an hour. I think we've covered everything. So, if there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Jane, Michelle at 7:35. All right, on a roll call vote. Greg,
Yes.
Alan Genovese is yes. Bill
Yes.
and Dorinda,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Deb Potee,
Yes.
and Cliff.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for all taking some time this evening to join us and look forward to seeing you. Enjoy your 4th of July. And those of you that were dads, hope you enjoyed the long week, the weekend, and had some fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. See you later. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, good